It is Tuesday morning, January 27, 2026. The coffee is hot, but the tape. The tape is an absolute mess of contradictions this morning. The opening bell hasn't rung yet, and honestly, we are staring at a market that doesn't quite know which way is up.
It is messy out there. It's the definition of mixed signals, and if you're looking for a clear trend to ride at the open, you might be looking for a while.
Let's look at the board because the divergence is stark. We have the Nasdaq 100 futures trying to stage a comeback, up about 0.6%.
Yeah, tech is attempting a bounce here, trying to shake off that brutal week.
Then you look at the S&P 500 futures, up a very modest 0.2%, sitting just 20 points shy of that massive psychological milestone, 7,000. It's tantalizingly close.
It's been teasing that 7,000 level for weeks now. It's becoming a bit of a soap opera.
But then you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It is the ugly duckling this morning, drifting 0.1% into the red. So we have tech buying, blue chip selling, and the S&P just stuck in the middle playing referee. What's the headline story driving this disconnect?
The headline is a collision. You have a head-on crash between macro and micro. On the macro side, the market is bracing for the Federal Reserve. Their first policy meeting of the year kicks off today, and we get the big decision tomorrow afternoon. That is the elephant in the room that no one wants to startle.
And on the micro side,
We are digesting a massive Earnings Tuesday data dump. We have heavy hitters from the industrial sector, healthcare, and the reactions aren't just ripples, they are violent waves.
so investors are stuck between the Fed's silence, the blackout period, and the corporate.
The corporate noise, exactly. That is the hook for today's deep dive. We have to figure out, is this Goldilocks trade, where everyone assumes inflation is down and growth is up, running out of steam?
Or is the Fed about to give us the next leg up?
Right, because if you look at the pre-market movers, the signals aren't just conflicting, they are screaming at each other.
All right, let's get into those screams. We have some serious gaps on the screen this morning. We have to start with the biggest loser on the board because this move is, it's eye-watering. UnitedHealth, kicker UNH.
Yeah, look away if you're long. It's ugly.
It looks like a managed care meltdown. The stock is down nearly 9% in the pre-market. For a company the size of UnitedHealth, that isn't just a dip. That is a massive destruction of value. What on earth happened overnight?
It's a policy shock.
Yeah.
You have to look at the data driving this.
Yeah.
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the CMS, proposed their payment hike for 2027. The street was expecting a certain bump, to keep up with medical cost inflation.
And they didn't get it.
They got a bump, but it was significantly lower than expected. The government is essentially saying, we're going to pay you less to manage these patients than you modeled for.
And in the insurance game, where volume is high but margins are thin, that's lethal.
Exactly. Margins are everything. That headline alone wiped billions in market cap out of the sector instantly. But here is why it matters for everyone listening, not just UNH shareholders. UNH is a price-weighted component of the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Let's pause there and unpack that for a second. We hear price-weighted all the time, but let's break it down. Why does that specific weighting make this drop so dangerous for the broader market?
Right, this is a critical distinction. The S&P 500 is market cap weighted. That means the bigger the company is in total value, like Apple or Microsoft, the more it moves the index. But the Dow is archaic. It cares about the price of the individual share.
So a stock trading at $500 moves the index way more than a stock trading at $50.
Precisely. And UNH is a very high-priced stock. It trades in the hundreds. So when a stock with that high of a share price takes a 9% haircut, it mathematically drags the Dow index down disproportionately.
It acts like a lead anchor.
A lead anchor. Even if the other 29 companies in the Dow are having an okay day, UNH can pull the headline index red all by itself.
So it completely distorts the picture.
Totally. But the psychological damage is actually worse than the math. UNH is supposed to be defensive alpha.
Defensive alpha, meaning it's the safe harbor.
Exactly. The playbook has always been, when the economy gets shaky or when tech feels too risky and bubbly, you hide in healthcare. People always need doctors, right? It's recession-proof.
But that trade is failing this morning. The safe money is getting vaporized.
It is. So traders are hyper-focused on the medical loss ratio, or MLR. Essentially, how much of the premium dollar is going out to pay for care versus sticking to the company as profit.
And the market thinks this ruling destroys that ratio.
Yes. And technically, you need to watch 585, that is sector support. If UNH breaks 585, it's not just a bad day for the stock. It tells us the safety net is full of holes.
Okay, so healthcare is the disaster zone. Let's pivot to the industrial side because this is fascinating. The Boeing company, ticker BA, high volume mover, following their Q4 prints. But looking at the numbers, they missed on earnings.
They missed. It wasn't a pretty quarter on the surface.
Yet the stock is up. The reaction seems counterintuitive. Why are buyers stepping in after a miss?
This is a classic lesson in how markets actually work. They are forward-looking machines. They don't care about what happened in Q4 of 2025. That's history. It's already in the price.
So they're ignoring the rearview mirror and looking through the windshield.
Completely. They are focusing entirely on the guidance. Management came out talking about stability in the 737X production line, which has been the plague of that company for years. But the magic words were positive cash flow guidance for the second half of 2026.
Cash flow is king.
In a capital-intensive business like building airplanes, absolutely. If you aren't burning cash, you're winning. Boeing is acting as a barometer for the manufacturing core of America.
So the fact they are bidding it up is a good sign for the broader economy.
It is. If investors were truly bearish, they would take this earnings miss and punish the stock. They'd drive it into the ground. But they aren't. They're buying the turnaround story.
What's the level we need to watch to see if this optimism is real?
The bull case level is 245. That is crucial because it's just above the 200-day exponential moving average.
The 200-day EMA. That's usually the dividing line between a long-term uptrend and a downtrend, right?
It is the institutional line in the sand. If Boeing holds above 245, it signals institutional accumulation. It means the big funds are voting with their wallets that the worst is over.
All right, so healthcare tanking on policy fears, industrials rising on future hope. But here is where it gets really interesting to me. We have a massive momentum play happening in resources, specifically Pan American Silver, ticker PAAS.
This is the wildest chart on the board right now. If you like volatility, this is where you're looking.
The relative volume is 4.2 times normal. That is enormous interest. What is driving everyone into silver all of a sudden?
This is the flight to quality trade in action. Silver rode a parabolic move yesterday, up 14% in a single session. I mean, that is a crypto-style move in a commodity market.
14% in a day for a precious metal is historic. That implies panic or greed.
It tells you that capital is abandoning the growth at any price mindset. It's sprinting for hard assets.
But why now? Is this just an inflation hedge?
It's more than inflation. It's geopolitical friction. Specifically, the news regarding the threat of 100% tariffs on Canada.
Ah, the trade war angle.
Think about it. When you have major macro uncertainty involving trade partners and tariffs, currency markets get jittery. Investors start looking for things that are tangible.
They want metal.
They want metal. So PAS as a miner is just a leveraged play on the metal price. If you think silver is going up, PAS usually goes up more. It's high-octane exposure to the safety trade.
It really paints a picture. Okay, let's look at the battlefield, the technical levels.
This is crucial. These are the decision points for the algorithms.
Let's start with the big one, the S&P 500 futures, the ES. The implied open is consolidating near 6,950.
Right.
We are staring up at that 7,000 level.
It's like a ceiling made of concrete. We have heavy overhead supply resistance between 6,975 and that 7,000 psychological barrier.
Why is 7,000 such a hard nut to crack? Is it just human nature?
It's purely mental. Humans like round numbers. S&P 7,000 sounds expensive. It sounds like a peak. So every time we approach it, sellers step in. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So if the ceiling is 7,000, where is the floor? Where do the bulls need to hold the line?
The line in the sand is 6,900. Specifically, that is the Monday gap fill zone.
Let's do another quick explainer on gap fill. Why does the market care about gaps?
Sure. So when the market jumps overnight and opens higher than it closed the day before, it leaves a gap on the chart where no trading occurred.
Right.
Prices have this weird, almost magnetic tendency to want to go back and trade in that empty space to fill the gap.
Like checking your footing before you climb higher?
That's a great way to put it. 6,900 is that level. If we lose it, the door opens to 6,830. And holding 6,900 today is so important because the volume is thin.
There's no conviction.
No conviction. The market's trying to figure out, is economic growth strong enough to withstand a trade war? If we break 6,900, the market is voting no.
Okay, that's the S&P. Let's switch to the Nasdaq 100, the NQ. We are looking at resistance at 23,850.
That's the trend line from the January highs. But the real pivot point right now is 23,600. That level is your short-term sentiment gauge.
And support.
We have the recent swing low at 23,420, and below that, the major institutional buy zone at 23,100.
The Nasdaq feels nervous to me. That 0.6% gain in futures feels fragile.
Is hesitation. And it's because of high beta risk. Look at Intel.
Intel's 17% plunge last Friday.
That is still a fresh wound for the market. It reminded everyone that even big tech names can collapse on a bad guide. Traders are terrified of guidance shocks.
And we have Microsoft and Meta reporting tomorrow.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be caught holding the bag. They'd rather miss the upside than get crushed by the downside. So they're de-risking.
So the directive here is pretty clear.
Simple. A close below 6,900 on the S&P or 23,600 on the Nasdaq triggers a short-term sell signal. Do not fight the tape if those levels break.
All right, let's layer in the macro. Let's look at the 10-year Treasury yield.
The most important number in finance. It's the gravity that pulls on everything else.
It's sitting at 4.22%, holding above that critical 4.20. And we have the U.S. dollar index, the DXY, at 97.14, bouncing off some lows. What does this tell you?
The verdict is a mild headwind. Yields aren't exploding, which would be a panic signal, but they aren't retreating either.
It feels stuck.
It's the friction trade. Think about it. The risk-free rate is sitting at 4.2%.
That's a decent return for zero work and zero risk.
It is. And that makes high PE multiples for tech look expensive. Why take the risk on Tesla or Microsoft right before earnings when you can get over 4% guaranteed?
It creates a valuation trap.
It paralyzes the market until the Fed speaks. We're stuck in this loop.
Now, despite this, I see a lot of chatter on the retail forums. People are talking about buying the dip in AI stocks. They want to front-run the Fed. Is that the move?
I call that the retail error.
Ouch. Why is it an error?
Retail is bottom fishing in AI laggards, betting on a dovish pivot. They think the Fed is going to come in and save the day.
But the risk isn't just that the stock doesn't go up. There's a mechanical risk here, right?
Exactly. The risk is a gamma squeeze. This is a concept that burns a lot of people.
Okay, break down a gamma squeeze for us. How does that play out here?
Okay, imagine a hedge fund is leveraged long on speculative tech stocks. Suddenly, yields spike toward 4.35% because the Fed isn't as nice as we hoped. Those speculative stocks crash.
So the fund is losing money fast.
Right. They get a margin call. The broker demands cash now. They look at their portfolio. The speculative stuff is illiquid. They can't sell it fast enough.
So what do?
They sell what they can sell. They sell the winners.
They sell the liquid stuff. They sell NVDA. They sell Apple.
Exactly. To cover losses in the junk, they have to liquidate the gold. That is the gamma squeeze dynamic. You think you're safe holding a quality name like Apple, and suddenly it drops 3% because some fund blew up.
That is the pain trade.
It happens every time liquidity dries up.
So looking at the market strategy for today, institutional sentiment is pinned at neutral. Is this a breakout opportunity? Do we chase this Nasdaq bounce?
Verdict. Liquidity trap.
A trap. That's a strong word.
An absolute trap. Look at Monday. We had a 0.5% gain. But the volume was low. It was churn without direction. It wasn't conviction. It was just noise.
So this morning's green numbers.
It's the lure of a pre-FOMC rally. You might see prices push up this morning, sucking in retail buyers, but it likely fades into the close as professional desks move to cash.
Nobody wants to hold risk overnight before the Fed.
Smart money doesn't. They want to be flat. But, and this is the key, while the S&P treads water, look at where the money is actually sprinting. It's not going into stocks. It's going into resources.
Back to the metals.
Gold is testing $5,100 an ounce.
$5,100 for gold. That is a historic move.
It's unprecedented. And it brings us back to Pan American Silver, PAAS. If you are looking for a trade, that is where the volume is. But you have to watch the levels.
What are the specific trigger points on PAAS?
And the bull case requires a break of 42.50. If it clears that price, it has blue sky above it, it goes.
And the downside?
The bear case. Watch $36. If it drops below that, the momentum is broken and it's profit-taking time.
So to summarize the strategy, don't get sucked into the index churn. The S&P and Nasdaq are just noise today. Watch the hard assets.
Correct. The indices are waiting for Powell. The metals are reacting to the world.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the bottom line for today. What is the final word?
My final directive to you is this. Keep your powder dry. Today is a tape-watching day. Entering new long positions in the general market here is high risk, low reward. You are picking up pennies in front of a steamroller.
The steamroller being the Fed.
The Fed and the earnings. The real move starts tomorrow, Wednesday, at 2:00 p.m. Eastern with the decision. Until then, everything is just positioning and bluffing.
And is there one specific indicator the listeners should stare at today, if they only have one monitor?
Watch the 10-year yield. Forget the stock prices for a moment. If that yield ticks higher than 4.21%, the resource trade accelerates, and tech gets hit. It's that simple.
All right. Respect the 6,900 level on the S&P. Watch UNH for the Dow drag. And keep an eye on that yield. The bell is about to ring. Let's get to work.